Tammy, if you will go ahead and call the following roll.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, please say here when I call your name. Regent Crum.
Here.
Vice Chair Draghi.
Here.
Secretary Hertenberger.
Here.
Regent Marvel.
Here.
Chair Sanchez.
Here.
Regent Shelton.
Here.
Regent Starkey.
Here.
Regent Stetska.
Here.
And Regent Tackard.
Here.
Dr. Albrecht.
Here.
Dr. Bourne. He may not come until 7.
Right.
So, Wendy Del Bello.
Here.
Karen Edwards. Dr. Griffith.
Here.
Carl Steger. Steve Cabrera.
Here.
Debbie Kraft.
Here.
Alan Phillips.
Here.
Myself, Tammy Giffro. Board Counsel Rick Morris.
Here.
Amos Byington.
Here.
And Matt Graves.
Here.
Okay, I believe that's everyone.
Thank you. At this time, I'm going to call the meeting to order. It is 6:02. Dr. Albrecht, do you certify that the notice of the meeting was posted in accordance with Title 5, Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code?
I do so certify.
Okay. It is 6 o'clock and this meeting is hereby called to order. We have the presence of a quorum attending by video conference. Notice of this meeting has been posted online for at least 72 hours. On March 16, 2020, Governor Greg Abbott granted a request by Attorney General Ken Paxton to temporarily suspend a limited number of open meeting laws to the extent necessary to allow telephonic or video conference meetings in response to the coronavirus COVID-19. In accordance with those suspended rules, the board certifies the following. A, although members of the board are not gathered in a central physical location, we do have a quorum in attendance at this meeting by video conference. B, this meeting is being held by video conference because the convening at one location of a quorum of the governmental body is not appropriate during the COVID-19 public health emergency. C, based on current guidance from federal, state, and county authorities concerning large gatherings and social distancing during the COVID-19 public health emergency, there is no established location for an audience to observe the meeting. However, the live meeting is accessible through a web link that was timely and appropriately provided to the public and media as part of the meeting posting and via the college's website. As we would at any in-person meeting, members of the public who have followed the standard instructions for registering to speak during the public comment portions will be allowed 5 minutes to speak. All other meeting procedures will adhere to board adopted procedures to the extent practicable. A video recording of this meeting is being made and will be available to the public on the college's website. At this time, I would ask that you stand with me and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, you may be seated and Regent Marvel will deliver the invocation.
Please bow your heads. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity to gather here tonight and serve this institution. Father, we pray for wisdom, discernment, and knowledge tonight. I pray we honor you in all of our words and decisions. And Father, I pray for all the staff, students, and board of ACC that we may remain healthy and safe during these uncertain times. And Father, I pray for those serving here and abroad to protect our liberties. I pray for those officers tonight who look to maintain peace and order. I pray for all the first responders meeting the needs of so many. We pray this all in your precious name, Jesus. Amen.
Thank you, Regent Marble. At this time, it is the portion of the meeting where we have citizen inquiries, being that at 5:30 we did not have anyone signed up to visit with us. I am stating that we will proceed with our meeting as planned. And I am announcing now that we are going to adjourn to a closed session pursuant to Texas Government Code sections 551.071, 551.072, 551.074, and 551.082, the Open Meetings Act, for the following purposes. The time is now 6:07. We will see the rest of you once this is over. Remember, do not leave the Teams meeting, just mute your microphones and don't exit. And then remember to call in as we are directed to do on our script. Thank you. Vice Chair Draghi, you're here, right?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. And Albrecht and Doc and Rick Morris, are you guys on?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
great. And Regent Marvel is here. I think we got all our regents and I think we're ready to. Got it, Tammy?
Yes, ma'am, I
Okay.
did.
Thank you. At this time, we have adjourned our executive session, and we are going to reconvene our board meeting in open session at 6:59 p.m. And we are going to proceed with the next item on the agenda, which is item 3. This is the time on our agenda that we ask our board members to share any events that they participated in regards to ACC related events or activities or any accolades that they might want to give to our staff members. So I am going to start with Regent Crum. Do you have anything to report?
Nothing this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Chair Draghi.
I just want to say thank you to the staff for doing all the virtual graduations and making those students feel as appreciated as you possibly could. And also the Strive Parade was a wonderful little idea. I think the students truly appreciated it and the parents did too. So thank y'all very much for everything you do and are continuing to do.
Thank you. Secretary Hartenberger.
Ditto to what Regent Dregge has just said, and everybody's working so hard and putting in so much effort, and we all appreciate it and recognize it, and everybody needs to just stay safe. But that's all.
Thank you. Regent Marble?
I echo those sentiments and hope everyone stays safe and get a test tomorrow if you need it.
Thank you. Regent Shelton?
I'll echo all of the previous and also add a comment in that kudos to our IT team on the savings that they secured for us is one of the agenda items, but I'll throw it out there now. They negotiated very well on our behalf. IT subscriptions and contracts are not always easy to do, so kudos for that.
Thank you. Regent Starkey?
No, just say I was able to sit in a meeting that Wendy Del Bello was in charge of earlier this afternoon with the chamber, with the Government Relations Committee, and she did a great job, and glad to have her on board.
Thank you. Regent Stockstill?
Well, this is Regent Stockstill, the dull, not doing too much these days. Life is dull, but I'm trying my best. I think that everybody is doing a really good job at the college, and I have to say I'm very proud to be associated with all the board members and the fact that the college is exemplary in its functions and well recognized in our community. It makes me very proud.
Awesome. Now, what about, let's see, Ms. Sanchez? No, Regent Tackard.
I'll get it here in a minute.
Okay.
I just like to thank all the administrators and the staff for a job well done on dealing with this COVID. I'm sure glad I'm retired and not having to participate in that. But anyway, kudos to all of y'all and y'all's hard work and effort to keep everyone safe up there. Thank you.
Awesome. And I would echo everything that everyone else has said. I also think that we have to thank Steve Cabrera, because Kelly is on vacation and he had to just pivot and get her done. And so he got this meeting together after we found out that we needed to do a virtual meeting rather than an in-person meeting. So kudos to Steve and all the other folks who are working so hard. I also want to mention that congratulations are in order, because one of the Shelton daughters is going to be attending nursing school at ACC. She was accepted, and I forget the girls' names, Darren, so I'm sorry. But anyway, we're excited that she's going to be a nursing student at ACC. Fins up. So now, without further ado, we were going to proceed now to the next item on the agenda, and we are going to look at the approval of minutes for the board meeting of May 12th, 2020, the called meeting of June 15, 2020, and the board workshop of June 15, 2020. I would entertain a motion from Vice Chair Draghi on that item, please.
So moved.
Regent Crum, would you make that motion?
Second.
Okay. Granted, we have a motion on the table, and I don't think there's need for discussion, but if you have any comments or discussion on that item, let me hear those now. If not, we will move to call the roll so that each of you can state your vote. Please state A or nay, starting with Regent Crum.
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you for that correction. Regent Vice Chair Draghi.
Aye.
Secretary Hartenberger.
Aye.
Regent Marble.
Aye.
Chair Sanchez, aye. Regent Shelton,
Aye.
Regent Starkey,
Aye.
Regent Stuxa,
Aye.
Regent Tackard.
Aye.
That motion passes 9-0. Thank you. The next item is an information item. I want to call your attention to the employee headcount and the employee resignation report. I don't know, Dr. Albrecht, are there any comments on that? Does anyone have any questions about that? Okay, great. If not, let's proceed to the next item on our agenda. Item 6 is our president's report. Dr. Albrecht, if you would discuss whatever it is that you want to share with us tonight. And again, this is for information only.
Thank you, Chair Sanchez. My report will be brief. As we've already shared with you, the National Guard is going to be hosting a COVID testing site at ACC tomorrow over at the drive-through by the EMS area of the S building. You have to make an appointment to be tested, and it is from 9 until 6 p.m. tomorrow. Every day, as you know, our students and staff members who are physically showing up on the campus go through a daily screening process to help prevent the spread of the virus on campus. So anyone who's on campus must take the training and have their temperature checked before coming to ACC or going to their classroom or office. We've been seeing about an average of 135 students and employees at Building S. And then the lab school, physical plant, and police academy also, they are doing their own screening. So there are actually more people than that are on the campus being screened. And a big shout out to Robin Dahms. Wendy asked Robin to take over that event to set it all up. And as she is our events coordinator, it was a perfect job for her to take, and she's really done a super job, as well as the screeners that she has trained to do the job. For our CARES Act money for students for the summer session, we've had 222 students apply so far for money for the summer. We've already given out money to 96 students as of now. This is in addition to the CARES Act money that we gave for the spring semester. So we will be doing another distribution in the fall. I wanted to let you know that our history instructor, Ian Baldwin, was recently honored for contributing to a book about the history of LGBTQ civil rights in Los Angeles. The book, Ray of Sunshine, is now available on Amazon. And lastly, when we were at our board workshop, I believe it was Regent Shelton who was asking about, have we asked our students how they prefer to receive their instructions going forward in the fall? And so Dr. Pam Sheffman did put a survey out and asked questions of the students. We're going to follow this up with questions to faculty members that will go out on Monday. But I just got this hot off the press, and I'm not going to give you super duper details, but just to let you know, we asked the question from a student perspective, what is your preferred way to take classes this fall of 2020? Only 31% of the students said they preferred face-to-face. The rest of about 63% said either online only or hybrid, which is a mix of online and face-to-face. Another option was online, except for the times when instruction requires face-to-face, which is essentially how we got through the spring semester. The students, where they could go online, they did. Where they couldn't go online, we had to suspend their instruction until we could bring them back, which is what we're doing now. 5% said they had no preference. So I could tell you that the way that we have our classes offered right now probably doesn't exactly align with the responses of the students. And I should say that there were 569 respondents to the survey. Another highlight is a question that says, I feel comfortable in a classroom with 24 students. And 56% of the students either disagreed or highly disagreed, indicating their level of discomfort. But then on the other hand, 44% said they agree or highly agreed. Let's see. Another interesting question. I'm comfortable with classes in online, except in the case where hands-on instruction such as lab work is necessary to learn. And a full 60% of students indicated that. They were okay with online, but they knew they had to do some face-to-face. We asked the students at this time, what's your greatest needs or concerns as you plan for fall classes? The number one concern was their health and safety, as 65% of them indicated. And then 51%, the second highest, was the ability to cover the costs of their classes. And I'm just hitting the hot spots on this. We asked students if ACC had laptops or hotspots for internet connectivity, would you be interested in these items for the fall semester? 66% said, no, I have access to these items for the semester. The next highest response was 13.5%, which said, yes, I would like to borrow these items on loan and return them at the end of the semester. And then about 10% said they would be interested in purchasing them through the bookstore. So that tells us that, 66% of our students are feeling comfortable with having access to technology. We asked students, the last question was, are you aware of the CARES Act money that could be available to you? And 62% said yes, and 38% said no. So we are trying to get the word out because it's money that needs to get into those students' pockets to help them for whatever needs they may have, not necessarily for tuition, but for life needs. And that, as I said, we're going to study these results, see if we need to make any changes to our course delivery for the fall, as well as get input from our faculty members as to their comfort levels. So that concludes my report, and I'd be glad to answer any questions that you may have.
Are there any questions for Dr. Albrecht? I think it's admirable that we turned around that request or that suggestion so quickly and acted upon it. And it's interesting to hear the results. It feels good. It feels good that we've gotten that done. Anybody else comment or question?
I have a question, please.
Sure, go ahead.
Very part of your information you provided talked about the screening of the students coming into the college. Any idea how many of those students that had to be turned back because of having a fever, or any criteria related to the numbers in and out?
I've had, I only have anecdotal information. We did have one scare that turned out to be not an issue. The student came in the morning, was tested, and was fine. She came back in the afternoon and she had a fever of like 101. And it turned out that she was one of our students in the CE program, the vet assistant program, and she had been out walking dogs as part of her internship for an hour and a half outside in the hot sun. And we let her cool off for a little while, and her temp returned, or no, we sent her home. We didn't do it then. We sent her home. And she was interviewed afterwards, and it was determined that that had been what she had done. And so she came back the next day and she was just fine. But I'm not aware of a lot of situations what we found out. When we know people have been exposed, of course, we tell them not to come to campus for 14 days. And so we're eliminating some of those that might show up through our screening process.
That's awesome. Awesome. And I think we're supposed to identify ourselves when we're talking, guys. So if I didn't remind you of that, make sure we do. If there are no further questions, thank you, Roger. If there are no further questions, we are going to move on to the next item, which is item 7. And if you'll notice, items 7, 8, and 9 are all personnel items. And so if we could, I would ask Secretary Hertenberger to make a motion to approve item 9, which is a motion to approve Jennifer Shimmick as a psychology instructor, approve David Westmoreland as a process technology instructor, and to approve Dr. Pam Schaffman as director of IER. Dr. Hertenberger, if you would make that motion, and Regent Marvel, if you would second.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor. Are there any questions regarding this motion? No questions. If there are no questions, I will now call the roll so that each member can state his or her vote. Please, let's start with Regent Crum.
Aye.
Brady.
Aye.
Secretary Hertenberger.
Aye.
Regent Marvel.
Aye.
Aye. Regent Shelton.
Aye.
Aye.
Bell, I'll say aye. I can't hear you, but if you've asked for me, I'll say aye.
Okay, Regent Stuxa, can you vote?
Aye, I've been right here, ready to vote.
Okay, thank you. And Regent Tackard voted, so that means that the motion carries 9-0. Let's proceed then to item number 10. Item number 10 is consider the approval of the carpet contract for G Building. Dr. Albrecht, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you very much, Chair. We are very happy that we're moving forward with the construction in the G Building, and we expect to be able to finish at the projected time of August 3rd. And at this time, I would like to ask Amos Byington or Matt Graves to address the G Building carpet.
Did you find it?
No. Volume's on.
Huh?
Volume's on.
Okay. Hello.
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 I was trying to find the our sheet, and I haven't been able to find it. So, but I can talk about the carpet and the flooring. We're hiring or asking to hire a subcontractor that just does flooring, and it's not running through the general contractor, so that we can save some money on the general contractor's fees. And so we're hiring directly to a flooring contractor. They've given us a really great price. In fact, it's they are on the co-op, but they've given us even better price than what we normally would get on the co-op. They've worked really well with us. It's a combination of carpet in the offices and the LVT in the hallways and the classrooms, and we're looking forward to we're still working with the colors, but all of that material should be on order soon after. Hopefully on Monday we can finalize some colors and get them all ordered. Are there any questions?
Folks, anybody?
Yeah, I've got
Great.
I've
Okay, go ahead.
I do understand that the price looks favorable. I also understand the $25,000 contingency, the 10%, which I do know is standard. Of course, flooring is one of those things where change orders don't happen quite as often, and being able to bid it is usually a fairly exact science. Floor leveling and stuff like that, I do understand. I'm just curious, for the sake of comparison in the bid process, if that 25,000 was added to the price, how is that going to compare to any other bids we may have gotten? In other words, if I add the 25 to the 267, how competitive is it at that point?
We would have put the 25,000 on whoever we used, so it would still be apples to apples. But we're using a co-op, so it wasn't competitively bid.
Understood. Thanks.
And the 25,000, it potentially may not be used, so it just comes right back to the college.
Thank you, Amos. Anyone else with the question? Great. In that case, I would ask.
I have a question.
Okay. Regent Stuxa, go ahead.
I was asking if there's any asbestos involved in this.
Yes, the asbestos was taken care of under the general contractor's contract, and it turns out we got a really great price for it, and the entire building has already been abated.
Wonderful. Thank you, sir.
Welcome.
Thank you, Amos.
Bill,
Thank you.
I've got a general question for Amos related to the projects. Would now be the appropriate time to ask?
I guess since it's the only time he's on, go ahead.
Amos, we had a discussion.
I'm sorry, it's Regent Marvel speaking. Go ahead.
So Amos, we had discussions about 3 to 4 months ago, pre-pandemic, about the exceptionally high cost of construction due to the robust economy. Are you seeing a trend now where prices are going down?
We have not done a lot of bidding right now. We got under the general contractor, and so I haven't had a real reason to do a lot of bidding. So I couldn't comment on that. I've seen very little materials in general. There are some particular materials that have been slowed down because of the virus, but in general, most of the materials and the construction industry, I think, is in many of the markets is doing okay. There are some markets that have been hurt more than others, but things like school districts and bonds and stuff like that, those things are still going pretty good.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Is there any? If not, we are going to move forward, and I would ask Regent Shelton to make a motion to approve. And I would ask Regent Starkey to second that, please.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor. I will now call the roll so that each of you can vote on this. Regent Crum?
Aye.
Regent Vice Chair Starkey?
Aye.
Secretary Hergenberger?
Aye.
I haven't heard, Bill. You're breaking up again, but I'll say aye.
Sanchez, aye. Regent Shelton?
Aye.
Regent Starkey?
Aye.
Stuxa?
Excuse me, you say Stuxa?
Yes.
Say aye.
Aye, if you said Stuxa. I
Yes,
couldn't
and
hear.
Regent Tackert.
Aye.
Okay, then that means the motion passes 9-0. Thank you. We are going to move to item 11, consider approval of Microsoft Campus Agreement. Dr. Albrecht, would you like to introduce this?
Thank you, Chair Sanchez. I think this was the contract that Regent Shelton was complimenting our team on. Carl, would you like to address the Microsoft campus agreement?
Yes, this is our yearly agreement, and we have not previously done a contract under this SHI government, but we usually do buy under this cooperative agreement, Texas Department of Information Resources. So I would believe that it's because we're dealing with this new entity that's helping to source this, that we're getting a little bit better deal this year.
Awesome. Are there any comments or questions for, whoops, never mind. Let's move let's consider a motion, approval of the Microsoft Campus Agreement. Regent Stuxa, if you could make that motion, and Regent Tackard, if you could second, please.
I so move.
Regent Tackard.
I second that motion.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor. Are there any questions? Hearing none, we will proceed to vote. Let me call roll on this, please. Let's start with Regent Crum.
Aye.
Vice Chair Draghi.
Aye.
Secretary Hertenberger.
Aye.
Regent Marvel.
Aye.
Chair Sanchez. Aye. Regent Shelton.
Aye.
Regent Starkey.
Aye.
Regent Tackard.
Aye.
Regent Stuxa.
Aye.
The motion passes 9-0. Thank you for that. Let's move on to item number 12. Item number 12 is the consideration of ratification of purchases made by emergency procurement during the COVID-19 pandemic. Dr. Albrecht, I know you had some questions on this that some of our regents asked you. I don't know if you want to speak to any of those, or if you want to speak to the item, please feel free to.
Thank you, Chair. You'll recall that when the pandemic hit and we had our emergency meeting on March 16th, the board delegated authority to me to approve contracts for goods and services necessary to respond to the pandemic. And then subsequently, 10 days later, when we had our first telephone conference board meeting, approval was granted to me to allow us to carry out acts necessary to respond. And then I'm required to bring forward to you for your ratification the purchases that were made under these agreements. And so we've tried to break it down to explain it in the best way possible. But for instance, one of the contracts was for Honor Lock, which is an online proctored testing software. And you heard a little bit about this from Dr. Griffith during the workshop. We had an online testing monitoring system called Respondus. When we went to a totally online format, we found out just how bad that product was, and it was really causing our faculty to really question the integrity of their testing process. And so our distance ed faculty fellow and our director of distance ed looked at 5 different products and presented to the executive leadership team, and we decided that the best product was the Honor Lock, partly because it's compatible with Chromebook, which is something that our ISDs use a lot of, and it provides 24/7 support for students and faculty, integrates into Blackboard, and you can pay for it by per student rather than per test, which is extremely important, especially when you're in an all online environment. If you're, a student could easily take 4, 5, 6 tests a semester. And if we had to pay for a solution so that they paid each test time, that would be bad. But if we can have the student on an annual basis, we pay one price. So even though it looks very expensive, it is the best price solution for us. And so we will be implementing, we've already started testing it. And my understanding is we do full implementation starting August 1st. So that's the one that would have been, otherwise it would have been procured through a regular process if we had not been in a pandemic. But we did pretty darn close to procuring it because our team really did extensive research and pricing with the vendors. Then direct purchases made in response to the pandemic. We did some UV lighting in our child care center. There were 17 lights in the classroom and 13 lights in the hallways to germicidal lamps. We thought that was a good place to put them, to try them out. It was in the child care center. We also made an emergency purchase of Safe Colleges. It's a product we already use in human resources for employee training, but we realized we needed to have a method to train students and others, such as our board members went through the same training. We're using it for not only for the safety training to come back to campus, but also for sexual violence prevention in response to our new Title IX laws, which go into effect in August. So that that would have been bid out at least. It probably wouldn't have been a contract that you would have seen. We also sprayed high traffic areas of our campus through a contract with DTK Facility Services. 144,000 square feet were sprayed across the campus in high traffic areas, such as, again, the Child Care Center, Building A, the library, and the buildings that we're currently having classes in, the N building, the H building, and the S building. Oops, I'm losing my screen here. Then the last bit, these aren't items that individually they aren't necessarily high cost, but combined they are a big cost. And that was when we went to multiple providers to get mostly personal protective equipment, safety equipment, gowns, gloves, disinfectants, and so on. And you can see on your board book on page 34 a listing of those costs, and they're broken down by what we have already submitted to FEMA for their review and possible 75% reimbursement. Some items that have been expended, but we have not submitted them to FEMA. And then others, the last section, orders that are placed but were not paid as of June 16th, totaling $230,000 at the bottom of page 34.
Great.
Are there any questions that I might answer?
Well, let me ask Regent Crum and Vice Chair Draghi to make a motion to accept this ratification of purchases, and then we can move on to discuss. Regent Crum?
So moved.
Vice Chair Draghi?
I probably need to ask Rick if it's okay if I approve that motion, since I'm one of the
I'll go ahead and second, Bill. I'll go ahead and second.
Okay.
Thank
Regent Marvel seconds it. Now, do we have any discussion?
I have a question.
Okay.
I want to say, first of all, that I appreciate all the work done to secure Honor Lock. The product seems like it's going to be a great solution for us going forward. And I appreciate the work the financial team and the instructional team did on that. The question I have is, when we made, and Rick, you may have to weigh in on this one, we approved a motion to make purchases that were necessary throughout the term of the pandemic, a temporary motion, and we're looking at a $231,000 3-year contract. Was there not a 1-year contract option for that?
I'll ask Alan to answer that, but I will say that in order to get the best possible pricing, we entered into that 3-year contract. Alan, could you speak to it?
That's exactly right. When Mr. Gonzalez and I talked to them, the price that they were going to provide for 1 year was extraordinarily high, and so it was. And plus, we didn't know their year, as we noted in the board item. the years cross each other, our fiscal year and their year cross each other. And we don't know how long this is going to last. And so we would have been through July 31st, their year, and then we would have to start over their year August 1st. And so it made better sense for us for the long term to do 3 years. They gave us a much, much better price for 3 years. And I don't have that number in front of me. I can't tell you exactly what the difference was, but much better price.
So again, I think I appreciate the work that was done. I just think we need to look at that resolution that we did. My only concern was that a time limit, we talked about a pandemic and a 3-year contract approving in the midst of all that. There is an immediate responses and then there's long term. So maybe it's something we need to visit maybe in legal some other time.
Any other questions or concerns?
Yes, ma'am. This is Roger. A little concerned. I don't know if y'all know the side effects of UV lights, and especially in an area where children are. And they do have certainly medical effects, killing germs, but also very dangerous to look at them. The light will burn your eyes. So I presume whatever we put in there, safe for be considered safe for the children.
Yes, sir. And one of the things, this is Alan Phillips, one of the things that we negotiated with them was a couple of things. They also installed a timer. These lights don't come on until 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. They stay on for a couple of hours and then they go back off. They never come on during the day. We also had a kill switch installed in the hallway by the kitchen. So if in the event of a storm or something like that where the lights might come on, one of the staff members can just reach around either from one of the offices or one of the classrooms, the kitchen, and push the off button.
Thank you.
So yes, in fact we did. Go ahead.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I've got 2 questions. This is Regents.
Okay.
Dr. Albrecht, just 2 questions. The first being regarding the sanitization, the DTK sanitization, the fogging. Do we expect the need to possibly do that more than once as, we perhaps reopen the campus to whatever degree in the fall? If you could, just give a little insight on that. And then the second question is, I realize we've purchased, quite a bit of stuff from the various vendors, whoever had it available. I guess my question would be, do we feel like the supply that we have is good for a few months, the next 6 months? Do we have any idea how long that expenditure will get us? Or if we're going to need, basis what we may or may not do, to have to go back and buy more of these things, et cetera? And those are my 2 questions, and I'll remute. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Regent Shelton. To your first question, the product that we sprayed, and we did go out and get bids on these products and these vendors, and studied them. And they came over and walked the campus and they looked at the areas that they would need to spray. The product that we chose is supposed to last 90 days. And we did talk about there's a possibility that after that 90 days, we might want to see where we are with regard to the pandemic and perhaps spray again. So that is a possibility that's out there. To your second question, it is on our agenda, our executive leadership team agenda every time we meet. Do we have enough PPE? Do we have enough hand sanitizer? Do we have enough wipes? And the short answer is we're really not certain, and we think we should probably be proactive and continue to place orders. We have been very fortunate working with Fastenal right there in Alvin. They have been they've been proactive. They call us and say, look, we know you guys are probably going to need this. We've got it. You want it. So we're going to probably continue to work with them as well as other vendors. Most people that are coming to campus are coming having their own masks. And so we weren't sure whether to anticipate that we were going to have to be giving out masks all the time. And that hasn't been the case for the most part. But when then we get into our allied health and nursing programs where students really need to have masks and they can't keep using them, they really do need to dispose of them, and they need higher quality masks, we need to keep an eye on it to make sure that not only are employees safe, but that our students are safe. So I imagine this is going to be ongoing for some time. And depending on how many people we have coming to campus too, if we do up our online learning more, then we would reduce the potential number of people needing masks that don't have them.
Mr. Phillips, did you have anything to add?
Not necessarily. Dr. A did a wonderful job.
Okay. Regents Stuxa, go ahead.
I would go back to the UV lights. You have cleaning people come in the evenings or late at night to clean. I would hope, I mean, I don't know the timetable, but I think that the people that are in that building should be very knowledgeable on, if for any reason the lights are on, they should get out of that building. There's some kind of warning, or they should be knowledgeable what they're there for, and when not to be in there when they're in use, just in case. Timers, things go wrong. Thank you.
Chair Sanchez, would you like for Carl to address that?
Yes, if he could, please. Mr. Stager.
Yes, Regents Tuck. So we had a lot of those same concerns. We thought about this for quite a while before, and so that is why we had the switch installed in the hallway, just so that we would have that extra layer, because we knew that our timers, the other timers that we have on campus, have come on at different hours just due to power outages and things like that. So we were trying to cover every case that we thought we could have with those lights coming on accidentally while people are there. We don't have a staff at that time at 1 to 3 in the morning when these lights come on. We do have some evening staff of custodians, but they're usually gone, I believe, by 9 p.m. So as far as the timer, I don't think we have a problem with that. And they'll all will, as they rotate through there, will be trained as to the use of that emergency shutoff button.
Thank you.
Great. Are there any other questions on this item? So I think that we are ready to have a motion on this. We have a motion on this, so we are ready to call roll. And so we will start with Regent Crum.
Yes.
Vice Chair Draghi. Oh,
I abstain.
Okay.
I abstain.
Thank you. Secretary Hertenberger.
Aye.
Regent Marble.
Aye.
Chair Sanchez, aye. Regent Shelton.
Aye.
Regent Starkey.
Aye.
Regent Stuxa.
Aye.
Regent Tackard.
Aye.
The motion passes 8 with 1 abstention. Item 13, which is our second information presentation of the fiscal analysis and proposed 2020-2021 budget. I'm going to ask Mr. Stager to introduce the item and share with us whatever he has need to share. Remember, this is information only, and we did have some questions that you guys, you as a staff were able to answer for us, and we appreciate that. Hopefully that'll help some of our understanding. Go ahead, Mr. Stager.
Okay, since it was just about 10 days ago, I guess, since we last met on this, there's been no changes here. I think we did give some answers to some questions that you had either in the meeting or since the meeting. You may have questions on some of that. One of the things that at least in my area, Regent Starkey had asked a question about administrative services, and so we gave a list of all the changes so you could see what we were done. What I had shown in the PowerPoint was kind of the large changes, and the numbers just didn't add up. But with that new page that we gave, you can see there's also some little small changes in there as well that kind of help explain what the whole difference was for all the pluses and minuses that went into the administrative services area in the budget change for that area of the college.
Great. Any other comments or questions that anybody might have? Anybody that asked a question want to say thank you to to the folks for answering that question so well? Or maybe they didn't answer it to your approval. Share your thoughts, folks, if you have any.
Carl, I will thank you for answering my questions. There's one more piece of data I'd like, and I'll send another email to follow it up. Just
okay.
a little bit, as far as the org chart goes.
Okay, sure thing.
Okay, so you can send that to Dr. Albrecht and she will take care of it, I'm sure.
Sorry, yes. Well, that's what I did this.
That's right. Thank you. Anything else that anybody else has on this? Is everybody comfortable with what they've presented to us? If so, we will move on. We don't need to vote on this item, so we will just go on to our next item, which is item 14. And item 14 deals with approving the 2020-2021 board meeting and workshop schedule. So, Dr. Albrecht, if you would like to speak to this, please.
Thank you, Chair Sanchez. I present to you the proposed schedule for regular board meetings and board workshops. This follows the calendar very similarly to this current year that we are in. You may recall, those of you that have been on the board longer, that we didn't used to have regularly scheduled board workshops, and it was very, very difficult to try to get 9 people to decide on a common day when we were calling them kind of at the last minute. And so with advice from our consultant, Dr. Nikki Harrington, she said that in her experience as a 3-time president, that this is what she would do, is she would call the workshops, put the workshops out there ahead of time. And then if it happened that you didn't need a workshop for any reason, that they could simply be canceled, just like we canceled our April workshop, but it's good to have them locked in place. So this, again, is very similar to our past several years workshops with early board meetings in January and August to accommodate hires just before the start of the semester. Several workshops in the summer, largely for budget workshops, and then also our typical goal setting workshop in August. Oh, and you may note too that on Monday, October 12th, the board workshop is pushed back from noon till 1 start. And the reason for that is that's our day that our SACS site visit team is going to be here, the very first day. And generally, when the site visits that I have been involved in, the board officers usually come in and have lunch with the SACS COC vice president who's running the search, as well as a site team, another site team member who is usually a CEO from another college. And so I wanted to keep that time free from noon till 1 for Chair Sanchez, Vice Chair Dregge, and Secretary Hertenberger to be able to meet with our SACS site visit team.
Great, great. So if I could, I would entertain a motion, Secretary Hertenberger and seconded by Regent Marvel, please, to approve this schedule.
So moved.
Second.
Great. Now we have a motion on the table. Do we have any questions for Dr. Albrecht concerning this schedule or comments? Great. Hearing none, we will move to take a vote. I am going to start with Regent Crum.
Aye.
Vice Chair Dregge.
Aye.
Secretary Hertenberger.
Aye.
Regent Marvel.
Aye.
Chair Sanchez, aye. Regent Shelton,
Aye.
Regent Starkey,
Aye.
Regent Stuxa,
Aye.
Regent Tackard.
Aye.
Great, this motion passes 9-0. Thank you much. Let's look at item 15, which is consider approval of board policy update 38 affecting local policies. Dr. Albrecht, please.
As you are aware, since we have been using TASB for our board policy since June of 2016, they provide us with updates to our local policies, and they inform us of changes that have occurred in the legal policies twice a year. They started out, when we first signed on, they were just doing it once a year, and now they're doing it twice a year. And as a matter of fact, they're doing a special update 39 that will be coming out shortly to address all of the additional changes to Title IX laws. So you can see in the summary here of what local policies are being suggested for revision. You can also see a listing of the legal policies that you don't vote on, but I would like you to be aware that changes have occurred. And on page 118, you can see the start of the very brief explanatory notes about why some of the policies have changed. You'll note that because of changes in the tax laws with regard to ad valorem taxes in the state of Texas, there's some legal policies that have changed, as well as some local policies, and those are all in the C area. And you'll also remember that sometimes they just move policy from one area to another, and it's without substantive changes. And then you'll remember too that the blue changes, often what they mean is the language may be exactly the same word for word, and you try to figure out, well, what was wrong with that? Well, it's because of their software that is making it easier for people with disabilities to see the language. So it's not really a change at all. And so I don't know if you have any particular questions. I asked Rick to be on board to answer any questions that I was unable to. But if you have any particular questions, now is the time to ask.
Let me get a motion on the table, Dr. Albrecht, so we can ask those questions. So I would entertain a motion, Regent Shelton, and a second, Regent Starkey, so that we can have a motion on the table and be able to discuss.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. So we have a motion on the table to consider approval of this board policy update. Do I have any questions for Dr. Albrecht or for Mr. Morris? Good. Hearing none, we will move forward, and I will call a vote.
No, I have one question.
Okay, Regent Marvel, go ahead.
Yes, it's for Rick.
Yes, sir.
On the TASB policy related to the pandemic, there's a specific paragraph there. Is that verbatim, or was that modified in any way when it came from TASB?
Well, it has not been modified since it came from TASB, I don't believe. Dr. Albrecht will have to answer that, but I haven't been asked to modify any policies, so I doubt that it has been modified.
I'm sorry, I don't know which policy you're referring to, Regent Cam.
Page 165, pandemics, there's a section in blue. It's a paragraph of, I don't know, 12 or so sentences. It's very extensive. Yeah, well, at least 165 on my on the document I have in front of me.
Okay, hang on. So that is not part of this topic that we're talking about. That's another board item. That's
Okay.
not in update 38. That's one that we are proposing locally.
Okay, all right. Sorry about that.
That's fine. So let's go ahead and move forward then with a vote on this item. We have a motion on the table. Regent Crum,
Aye.
Vice Chair Draghi, Vice Chair Draghi,
Sorry, aye.
Secretary Hertenberger,
Aye.
Regent Marvel,
Aye.
Chair Sanchez, aye. Regent Shelton,
Aye.
Regent Starkey,
Aye.
Regent Stuxa,
Aye.
Regent Tackard.
Aye.
The motion passes 9-0. Now we move forward to item 16, which consider approval of the revision to board policy FFAC local regarding wellness and health services and communicable diseases. I am going to, rather than have Dr. Albrecht speak to it first, we're going to go ahead and let Mr. Stux, Regent Stuxa, make a motion, and Regent Tackard a second, so then we can open it up for discussion once she explains it. Right, Regent Stuxa, a motion, please. Regent Stuxa, can you make that motion?
I so move, make the motion. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Regent Tackard.
I second that motion.
Great. We have a motion on the table. Dr. Albrecht, would you like to speak to that, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair Sanchez. Through our discussions at the state, my state organization, Texas Association of Community Colleges, we have been advised to add statement to board policy to specifically address pandemics that gives the college some authority to be able to impose the kinds of screenings that we are having to do right now, and to have some teeth in it so that students will know that they need to comply with the policies that are set forward. I can't tell you why Tammy and I could not figure this out. We could not make this writing red. This writing should be red in here per legislative style. The blue is not the color it's supposed to be, but for whatever reason, we couldn't get it changed. So that's what the rationale behind having a statement in here about pandemics and how the college would be able to put safety measures in place.
So, Regent Marvel, was this the one you were talking about?
Yes, I was just comparing it to TASB and ensuring that it was this. So was this created by Rick in-house, or was this from your association?
No, this was neither created by Rick nor our association. This is language that our executive leadership team drafted.
Okay.
Okay, any other, go ahead, Regent Shelton.
I guess my question is, in the what I assume to be the absence of this policy heretofore, I understand we want to put something in that maybe gives teeth. I guess my question is, do we not have teeth in what we currently have? If that question makes sense.
Well, what we currently have is what we call just procedures, administrative procedures that the executive team and others contribute to, but it doesn't have the power of a board policy. And so it gives us something more to lean on when we're in a situation like we are, when we're really trying to keep everyone safe, and we can point to this policy and say, our board thought it was important enough to put this into their policy.
Is that enough of an answer for you, Regent Shelton?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Are there any other questions for Dr. Albrecht on this one? Okay, hearing none, let's proceed with a vote. Regent Crum?
Aye.
Regent Vice Chair Draghi?
Aye.
Secretary Hertenberger?
Aye.
Regent Marvel?
Aye.
Chair Sanchez? Aye. Regent Shelton?
Aye.
Regent Starkey?
Aye.
Regent Stuxa?
Aye.
Regent Tackard?
Aye.
The motion passes 9-0. Item 17 is another board policy. Consider approval of revision to board policy DBB local regarding employment requirements and restrictions, medical examinations, and communicable diseases. Dr. Albrecht, let me get a motion on the table, and then would we please have Regent Crum make a motion and Vice Chair Draghi second it so we can get a motion on the table and then Dr. Albrecht can present it.
So moved.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion on the table. Dr. Albrecht, would you like to speak to this now?
Thank you, Chair Sanchez. This is very similar to the previous policy that you just approved, only this one is for employees rather than students, and the language is nearly identical with switching out the words employee and student. But again, it's to allow the college to set certain protective standards during a time of pandemic and to insist that employees follow those.
Okay, do I have questions on the for Dr. Albrecht on this one? Great. Hearing none, I will call the roll for a vote. Regent Crum.
Aye.
Vice Chair Draghi.
Aye.
Secretary Hertenberger.
Aye.
Regent Marvel.
Aye.
Chair Sanchez. Aye. Regent Shelton.
Aye.
Regent Starkey.
Aye.
Regent Stuxa.
Aye.
Regent Tackard.
Aye.
The motion passes 9-0. We are moving on to item number 18, and this is consider approval of the revision to board's policy DBF local regarding outside employment. I would entertain a motion from Secretary Hertenberger and Regent Marvel on this motion, please, on this item, please.
So moved.
Seconded.
Great. We have a motion on the table. Dr. Albrecht, would you like to talk to us about this one?
Yes, thank you, Chair Sanchez. This, I will tell you too, that we did have assistance from legal counsel to write this policy. Currently, the board policy you'll see listed on page 171. It's very brief. It simply states that full-time employees should annually disclose in writing to his or her supervisor about any outside employment, and they should do that at the beginning of the academic year or at any time during the year the employee begins another job. And in our minds, when this policy was written and presented to you, we're thinking simply about an employee who might teach a part-time class at another institution, or something minimal. But we began to have some issues with discovering that employees were, first of all, not disclosing at all to their supervisor that they were working. And it didn't require a supervisor's approval. It was just a disclosure so that we could make sure to watch that employee to make sure that their other job wasn't interfering with their main job with us. And so we tried to strengthen this up to say that you cannot be our full-time employee and work another full-time job unless they have approval from the college president. And so, Rick, I don't know if you would like to speak to the language at all, since you were very helpful in drafting this for us.
I will. Thank you, Dr. Albrecht. So yes, the initial policy really didn't allow you to do much. There was very little obligation of the employee. I will tell you that in the COVID era, maybe something we did not appreciate is because some teachers are delivering instruction online. They have figured out that maybe they can carve out more hours in the day and juggle two jobs. And so sometimes that can create problems. In one instance, the employee was seeking employment with another government agency, and the government agency called because there needed to be a coordination of benefits. You needed to release the benefits that you were providing so that they could get on full-time benefits for the other government agency. And at that point, the gig was up. There's flexibility built into this policy so that if in some instance there's reasonable justification for the employee to hold down two full-time jobs, and they can persuade Dr. Albrecht that they can still meet their duties for the institution, then it's within her authority to allow that to happen. We've talked about it though, and we don't envision that that would be very likely. I think it's reasonable for you when you employ somebody full-time to believe that they're giving you a full-time effort and that they're not distracted by another full-time job.
Great. So we have a motion on the table. Folks, any questions from anyone?
I guess I have one, and it's probably got a couple of follow-ups, but the idea to me is that I don't think people like to work extra jobs just to work extra jobs. So are they perhaps working extra jobs because the rate of pay that they have with the college isn't sufficient to earn a living wage? Or like when we talk to people who have multiple jobs, despite the person writing, other issues that may come up, but what's the reason for having a second job? If they currently have a full-time job with ACC and then have a second job.
Well, I could thank you for that question, Regent Starkey. And I can tell you that in the cases where we have seen this, it's the individual does not have a low-paying job.
And building on that, I don't believe that there's ever been an instance where somebody offered that as the excuse for why they had a second full-time job. If they did, I think that would obviously be a consideration that you would need to take into account.
Gotcha. And so I guess the follow-up then is that if it's a higher paying job, then it seems to me that it might be something along the lines of as a consultant, or is it just teaching at another school?
Or writing a book, or
yeah, I'm a little curious.
Yeah, or writing a book, or doing some kind of outside, something that is associated possibly with their field of study, but just something, just an extra something. Just depends on the individual.
And in the case, the most recent case to which legal counsel was referring, the job, the other full-time job was a job that paid about half as much as the employee currently made.
So it was just an area of interest, evidently. So anything else for Rick or Dr. Albrecht on this one? If not, we will move to vote on this particular item. So I will now call the roll. Regent Crum.
Aye.
Regent Vice Chair Draghi.
Aye.
Secretary Hertenberger.
Aye.
Regent Marvel.
Aye.
Chair Sanchez. Aye. Regent Shelton.
Aye.
Regent Starkey.
Aye.
Regent Stuxa.
Aye.
Regent Tackard.
Aye.
Very well. The motion carries 9-0. We are moving on now to item 19. If I could have a motion from Regent Shelton and a second by Regent Starkey before we move into discussion.
I make the motion that we consider approval of the resale trust property.
Regent Starkey.
Second.
Thank you.
Second.
We have a motion on the table for account number 3690-0084-000, Brazoria County Suite number 8218-1899. Do we have any discussion on this item? Anyone? Anybody do research on it? Cam, did you go drive it or something?
No, the only thing I would make mention of is that they're attempting to purchase it for 25% of its value. However, it's been approved by all of the authorities down in Angleton, and it will allow us to recover the back taxes and hopefully start generating taxes going forward.
Yep, that was my thought as well. So
And
are there
I
any
would
other? Go ahead,
I was
Andy.
just going to say, I think we're heading in the right direction on all these resales, because getting them back on the tax rolls will get our money. And I think this is what we need to be doing and should have been doing in the past, but you know the past, so we'll just move forward on this one.
That's history, isn't it,
Yes,
Regent
ma'am.
Tech? Okay, so if I hear no other questions, let's move forward to a vote. Regent Crump,
Aye.
Vice Chair Draghi,
Aye.
Secretary Hartenberger,
Aye.
Regent Marvel,
Aye.
Chair Sanchez, aye. Regent Shelton,
Aye.
Regent Starkey,
Aye.
Regent Stoxa,
Aye.
Regent Tackard.
Aye.
So we, this motion passes 9-0. We are to our last item, item 20, which is the financial report ending May 2020. I would entertain a motion, Regent Stoxa, and then a second by Regent Tackard.
I so move that we approve the financial report,
I second that.
investment transaction report.
Okay, and we have a motion on the table. Do I have any questions for Mr. Stager about the financial report? I think some of us may have asked some questions, and I think those were answered. Were they not? Did we have some on? Were those some of the ones too? I can't recall. Okay, if we don't have any questions on that, we can move forward for a roll call. Regent Crump,
Aye.
Vice Chair Draghi,
Aye.
Secretary Hartenberger,
Aye.
Regent Marvel,
Aye.
Chair Sanchez, aye. Regent Shelton,
Aye.
Regent Starkey,
Aye.
Regent Stoxa,
Aye.
Regent Tackard.
Aye, and I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
The motion passes 9-0. I have a motion on the table for adjournment. Do I have a second?
Marvel
Second.
second.
Just take your pick, Tammy. We have a motion to adjourn, and our meeting is adjourned at 8:13 p.m.
We need to take a vote, Belle.
You got
Pardon?
vote.
We need to take
Oh,
a-
we need to vote. Let's vote. Thank you, Regent Marvel. I am rather ready for this to be over, I think. Regent Crump,
Aye. And this
Vice Chair Draghi,
Aye.
Secretary Hartenberger,
Aye.
Regent
Aye,
Marvel,
Aye.
Chair Sanchez, aye. Regent Shelton, Regent Starkey,
Aye.
Regent Stoxa,
Aye.
Regent Tackard.
Aye.
And everyone said, good night. Motion passes,
night.
Tammy, 9-0. Great job, everybody. Thank y'all. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair
Everybody
Sanchez.
have
Great job.
Evening, good day tomorrow.
That's right. Take care, guys. See y'all later. Adios.
Bye. Stay safe.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay.